is sponsored by Augie's Locker Room. Augie's features the largest collection of Notre Dame football memorabilia and gifts, including rare and hard-to-find items.
Hey, this is Augie, Augie's Locker Room. Website, augieslockerroom.com. Visit us here or the website.
Notre Dame struggled early offensively, but an 82-yard punt return by Chris Tyree, a pick six by Jaden Mickey, a muffed punt that was recorded by Ramon Henderson, and Notre Dame was on their way. Audric Estime with 114 yards and 3 touchdowns. It ended up being really easy, not in the first half when it was 17-0, but the Irish ended up winning 58-7.
Yeah, 3 non-offensive touchdowns, 3 touchdowns by Estime. Cooper Flanagan got in the act and got a touchdown. We saw Jadarian Price break over the side. We wanted to see if they could get some motion on the edges there. Jadarian Price with a nice touchdown run. The offense got going. I mean, it was 530 yards. Right. Just didn't seem like it was going to be. Well, they moved the ball in the first quarter, but a red zone interception, then another interception into Pitt territory. Made you wonder, but then Notre Dame slammed the door.
With another 2 picks by Xavier Watts, he now has 4 in the last 2 weeks, and I believe he's leading the nation with 6 interceptions at this point. He's fantastic once again. Notre Dame shut down the running game. Tim, I'm going to talk to John here first, but we expected Pittsburgh to play it kind of close to the vest with Christian Veer starting just his 3rd game. They had been very conservative with him. They came out throwing the football. They did some creative stuff in the running game, a couple RPO type stuff, but they were more aggressive than we thought, and it ended up costing them as Notre Dame broke the game open.
Much more aggressive. You know, Jared Parker this week had said, "Are you ready for a rock fight or a street fight or whatever?" And Pitt tried to throw much more exotic stuff out there, much more finesse out there than we're accustomed to seeing from the Panthers, particularly with the young, inexperienced quarterback. But I think this goes back to what we hit on in the pregame incident analysis, and it's a Pittsburgh team lacking its typical identity, and particularly lacking its typical identity on offense. And we saw that today.
Yeah. Tim, a couple of things that we talked about pregame. Notre Dame had to win the turnover margin. Pat Narduzzi's teams are very good when they win it. They were 39-7 when they did win. Notre Dame forces 5 turnovers. A couple of early picks by Sam Hartman, one that was not his fault, one that we thought Flores could have fought a little bit harder on. But one of the other keys going into this game was just how well Notre Dame's wide receivers would do against press coverage. There were 15 passes attempted to Notre Dame's wide receivers, 11 catches, well over 200 yards. A good performance against some really good cornerbacks.
Yeah, it was their best against a Power 5 team, too, because they had a good day against NC State as wide receivers, but the volume here, those were big plays by Jaden Greathouse scoring a touchdown, Chris Tyree with the long gain against NC State. This was volume. They all chipped in. Jaden Greathouse did not have a catch today. Jaden Thomas only had 2, but I really think their return bodes well for the next 3 games, and I think their absence is a big deal for some of these guys that have emerged, because Chris Tyree has become a legitimate college wide receiver. We've always said, hey, Chris Tyree comes up with 1 good play a game. Now he's making more than 1 good play a game. That was a beautiful catch deep downfield by Tyree that I don't think he would have made confidently or technically when we concluded August camp and maybe even into September at times. He's been a spark. He's the consistent guy we've talked about, and now they have a playmaker out there.
They really do. And Estime, speaking of playmakers, we were a little surprised he was still in the game late. He ends up with 114 yards.
There's a Doak Walker award and some stuff coming down the pipe that he needs.
Yeah, no, there is. And he's now, with his 114 yards and 3 touchdowns on 19 carries, he's now, I think by my estimation, 99 yards short of 1,000 yards. Steve Angeli came in, attempted 7 passes, 6 were completed. Beautiful throw rolling to his left to Cooper Flanagan. There's going to be a couple Flanagans on this roster here coming up in a couple years. But, ultimately, Notre Dame had 17 points at halftime, a total of 41 points in the second half. Marcus Freeman said he challenged the team at halftime to pick up the pace and be better, and they were in the second half.
And Marcus also acknowledged when we asked him about it post-game, they needed a win like this. They needed a game like this. They needed some evidentiary results out on the field to unfold, and Notre Dame made those results unfold. I don't think we can overlook that. And again, to a point we talked about pregame, was how good practice was this week, how much they benefited, maximized that time off. They were refreshed, but then they came back and worked really hard. They're finding some new things. They took shots shots downfield that they needed to take, have to continue to take. We saw them rotating a little bit more personnel, skill positions early in the first quarter offensively when they were moving the ball. An odd stat here, Sam Hartman through the first quarter was 8 of 10 for 80-plus yards. He hadn't had a ball touch the ground through the first quarter. 8 completions to Notre Dame and a couple that Pittsburgh got their hands on.
He ended up being 18 for 25, 288 yards, but no touchdowns, which of course is a rarity for him. You know, one thing as we look ahead to Clemson again, losing today, playing really poor football, their 4th loss this season. Notre Dame cannot worry about how good Clemson is, what their record is, what it means if you beat a Clemson team now that they have 4 losses. They just need to go out there and take care of business. By the way, it's been announced, and this is largely because Clemson lost, that it's going to be a noon kickoff at Clemson this Saturday. But look, you just have to take care of business. You can't worry about whether Clemson's playing well or not, and go out and get victory number 8 next week.
And the way the defense is playing, I expect that. I do expect Clemson to play pretty good defense against Notre Dame as well. But, John, that's a great point that they needed this type of game offensively to have confidence going to Clemson, because Clemson's a better defensive team than Pittsburgh. Yeah. Pittsburgh is a good defensive program. Usually Clemson is a good defensive team this season. You know, if Audric Estime and Jadarian Price have a little bit of a 1-2 punch going, Jeremiah Love dropped a pass early, but they went back to him later. I thought that was good probably for his confidence as a freshman in the 4th quarter. As I said, Greathouse and Thomas still aren't all the way back, and the receivers had a good day. So as long as Mitchell Evans comes back, we didn't mention that, he did take a shot. Was it above the knee? Did we ever find out exactly what happened?
I mean, it looked to me like it was above the knee, so it may be a really bad bruise. I didn't see any hyperextension.
They need him.
Yeah,
no, they need him going forward. He is the best receiver still on this team.
Speaking of guys that they need the 2 cornerbacks one that didn't play, Benjamin Morrison, because of quad injury. And then later in the game, Cam Hart, whether it was shoulder or arm or whatever, when you hear shoulder with Cam Hart, that's really bad news because we know about his history of shoulder problems. But Christian Gray stepped up. Jaden Mickey, of course, stepped up as well. But they're going to need those 2 guys back. Even with a struggling Clemson, when you go into that building, you're going to have to be at your best on the road.
You still have a lot to play for if you're Notre Dame, and you can look around the country and see some results that cause a little bit more disappointment residually from that Louisville loss. But you're still Notre Dame looking to get a 10-win regular season in your second year under Marcus Freeman. You're still Notre Dame, very much out there and very attractive to the college football New Year's 6 bowl games. And, you want to be playing your best ball closing the season. Notre Dame, I think, under Marcus Freeman has elevated a lot of its recruiting and doesn't recruit as much against Clemson, I don't think, as it used to, but you never want to pass up the opportunity to go ahead and hurt Clemson while it's down, and then you can turn next weekend into an opportunity to win on the field and to further win on the recruiting trail. I think that captures attention.
We often use the term complementary football. This is 2 games in a row now where Notre Dame has played extremely well when it came to complementary football, offense, defense, special teams. Notre Dame 58, Pittsburgh 7. Check us out on IrishIllustrated.com and Irish Illustrated Overtime.